Hi there, lovely. There's a woman in my private membership group who, every time she posts, especially in the last few weeks, has made me chuckle because she's been sober since early April. It's now 21st of July, and every time she puts something in the group, you can tell she's furious. She's steaming with anger, but not with anybody else, with herself. One of the things that she's realised is that for decades she has people pleased all over every relationship in her family that she has. She has kept the peace. She has said yes when she didn't want to. And the clarity of mind that she has now has really highlighted to her just how much she hasn't had boundaries in place. She hasn't been able to find a way to say no. I know that when women drink, that you find yourself in this sort of quiet place of guilt where you know you're not performing at your best, you know you're drinking when you shouldn't be, and it certainly made me feel that I couldn't assert myself. I didn't have the right to assert myself because I was doing this bad thing and I wasn't at my best. So even though sometimes you'd maybe get a bit of an inkling that maybe life should be a little bit different, you could never sustain the thought long enough or hold on to any idea of boundaries while you're drinking. And very often, even when you do, it can often come out like an explosive kind of bang, particularly when you've got drink in you, where it bubbles over and then you apologise the next day and things go back to normal, and you don't change anything. And I know I used to do that. I had a 2.5 year relationship where, I behaved like a puppy, like a grateful puppy. Do anything. Yeah, sure. I'll just keep the peace, keep things nice, and it wasn't until 2.5 years into feeling so unbelievably low about myself that I just snapped and ended things. But even that was done in a really messy way, and bad things were said, and it just became, it was not done well. But this lady in my membership group, I'm actually really enjoying it, although I am trying to stop her from becoming a warrior woman and kind of going to war with everybody. It's fabulous to watch her assert herself and understand what it is to be sober and strong as a midlife woman. Particularly, I deal with women who are grey area drinkers, and that is something that keeps you in this weird no man's land of never bad enough to call it alcoholism and never enough to call yourself a moderate drinker. It is just this endless low level kind of state of mind where maybe you, but definitely this lovely lady, has been swallowing down hurts and her own feelings about things. She's convinced herself that her feelings and thoughts don't matter, that her opinion doesn't matter. And now, with that clear mind, she's actually looking at the relationships that in reality she's created, because that's what we do. If we don't put boundaries in place, then that's what happens. We create these relationships where other people behave in the way that we teach them to. And I'm cheering her on. I think it does make me chuckle because she's so angry with herself. And she's now kind of shouting, "Watch out, world, I'm coming," which I think is entirely appropriate for a woman who has spent decades drowning out her own needs with alcohol. If this is happening to you, don't panic. Anger's understandable when you get that clarity of mind after alcohol goes, because you begin to see just how much you've allowed yourself to accept things that really, in the cold light of sobriety, are unacceptable. But it doesn't mean you have to rage your way through every relationship that you've got. I teach a framework called The Most Loving Thing, and the way you use that is to ask yourself the question, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? And in this situation, I'm always advising this lady, don't forget, the most loving thing that you can do is not to stay angry and just calmly learn how to put boundaries in place. And those are the kind of conversations that we have about how she might do that, what might be the right way to say it. And we often talk about those in the weekly meetings that we have. I know it's really tempting to go from the having no boundaries situation to building, a Berlin Wall sized, boundary that not a soul can get over. But there's no need. We can be loving about the changes that we make. We can say things like, "Darling, I love you, but that is not good for me. Darling, I love you. I am not leaving you, but I am changing how we interact. Come with me, it'll be great." And I have seen every possible outcome from women in their relationships when they start to put boundaries in place. Yes, sometimes relationships do break up, but it's usually because alcohol's been a kind of ugly glue that's held things together for fear of what would happen if you got sober. But I've also seen relationships heal wonderfully, and I've seen relationships split and then come back together. There isn't a standard outcome from getting sober in your relationships. But what I want for you is to understand what your boundaries are, how you put them in place, and to make sure that you let everybody understand that in doing that, you're doing the most loving thing for yourself. And you're doing the most loving thing for them, because that choice of yours to put a boundary in place ensures that you have equal relationships with the people that you love, and that can only be a good way to go forward. If you'd like to come and join us, the link is in the description box below to the private membership group. I would love to welcome you in if you want some support with quitting. We've only been open for a little while, and we've already had one graduate who's left us. My philosophy about my membership group is come to quit, stay to change, and leave to be free. The stay to change for me is the part that takes the work. I think for many midlife women who are grey area drinkers, you already know how to quit. It's the staying sober that's the hard bit, and that's really the work that I do on your identity, your relationships, your boundaries. And then when you're ready, I will be delighted to wave you goodbye and let you leave so that you can be free to live the life that you really want to live. Come and join us, my love. You really, really don't have to do this alone. Lots of love.